For the Yamaha they have a split pin, so just to bend that back, grab hold of your cotter pin or your split pin and then just lever it out. Same again, lever. And all 4 strokes are somewhat the same. They've got the gearbox oil, gear in the motor, but there will be some things that will be unique to each particular motor. So that is something you need to research to find out. So that's come off. And watch when you take things out how they go back on again. So that's how it will go back on again. If you're not sure, just lie it in place on the ground exactly the way it comes out. So that's how it came out. Simon's going to place them straight on the ground. Oh, I just found out. Oh, so that's what happened. Last time I was out, we had an 18 to 20 foot white pointer swim up beside the boat. Now my boat's only about 18 foot and it was huge. And as soon as I popped it into gear and went to take off, my rod went straight up and over. And I thought it could have been caught in the prop, but I just wasn't sure, but I really don't know how that happened. But anyway, that's another story, but that is what happened. There is my braid. So now I know it did get caught in the prop, but I'm just not sure because that shark's tail was right underneath us. Whether he swiped it in there or not, I don't know, because it was set out. Because there's a seal just in there, bit hard to see, but I can't see any sign of oil, which is good. So again, your thrust washer, that's the way it went on. So it's going to go on the ground exactly the way it came off. And now to take this off. See the cap there? That comes off. To come out, or a bolt, not another bolt. And then we have 4 bolts, 1, 2, and then another 2 on the corresponding side. Just up in here, that's, there we go, you can see that. That is for the speedo, but there's the join, so I'm going to undo it there first. And the gear selects will just come straight out, and so will the shaft that drives the gearbox. Ready to come off now. I undid the bolt, and then this comes off. It acts as an anode as well. You can see it's been working on it. So I just put my knee underneath to support it. Now you leave it in neutral when you pull it out, which you'd always do anyway. Okay, here it is, last bolt. And down it comes. Well, should come. One more bolt. Just one more bolt up in here. Can you see? There it is. Okay, here. Just give it a slight wriggle. That should ease its way out. It'll just break free of it, and then it'll just come straight out. Okay, here it comes. That's it, coming out. Try and bring it out at right angles to it, the way it's coming. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to take the water pump off. This is the water pump housing. There's 4 bolts, 2 here and 2 the other side, so I'll start doing that. Okay, so this is the last one. Okay, just give it a little twist, lift her up, see that's starting to come up, little locating lugs. Okay, you should just pull up. That's it. Camera's not focusing, there you go, stainless steel. This is really being stubborn. Oh, wow, that's been stubborn. And that's what happens, they do get stubborn. If I just keep turning it and keep working on it, I'm sure I'm going to get it. I am getting it, but very slowly. There we go. I have to confess, last time I serviced it, I didn't take it all the way off. And I don't replace my impeller every 100 hours. You check them for cracks for now 200 hours, and there I can see a crack coming into it. So it is definitely worth replacing. But just for me, you might be different. You might want to replace it every 100 hours. Now what I'm doing, I'll put this on the ground because I've got to get a bit more leverage onto this to pull this impeller up. There we go. You probably can see it there. It's a little key. That little key there is what, see it there? That's what the impeller keys up with, so that when the shaft turns, it's actually turning the water pump. Just give you a closer look at this. It does need replacing. I mean, they do get a bit of a bend on them, but when you're checking for the cracks, it's in here. Just fold them back, because when you go forward and reverse, the new impeller, you can see the difference between them. And now I'm going to put it on. So I'm just lining the gaskets up with the keyway. And now to line this up, you'll see again with your impellers, they have a little keyway in it. I don't know if you can see that, but that just gets lined up with the keyway that's on that. A bit of lubricant on that too. I've actually added a bit of oil in this. I got it down there. Alright, now putting this on, your fins on your rubber will bend in there. And just turn it, if you have to help it a little bit. Just make sure they all start. Okay, that's it. And then you can just turn your shaft. And it should go down, which it's doing now, just slightly. So just turn your shaft as you put pressure on it going down. And that's it, it's in there. Okay, there's my bolts, and I'm going to put more antifreeze on them. And that's why I wear gloves for. Alrighty, so just do them up, and again I just do them firm. But work your way around, do it evenly. Just going to throw a bit of anti-seize on the gear change selector. Here's something I'd like to show you. This motor is 13 years old, and I've regularly serviced it, regularly flushed it, and it's quite amazing just how clean it is. I'll show you, there are three things that have got to line up. The shaft, when we put this back, when we put the leg back in, the shaft, the water pipe has got to fit in there, and then the spline for the gear change, and of course that's got to fit through a little area. So here we have, that was that little tube, that was the pressure for the speedo. That's the spline for the gear change. And looking up in there, you'll see that's where the shaft goes, and that section there is what connects into the water pump. But don't put anything on top of the shaft there, because it could cause pressure. This is all anti-seize, you might use grease. Okay. This tube's going to go in. Pop it out. Good be because I've moved the water pump. There we go. So, but first that comes through as your tubing. Second is the shaft spline needs to line up at the bottom of the motor, and it may be you've got to drop it and just turn it a touch in order to do that and pop it back up in there. And then thirdly, well, your gear selector has to line up. You might have to, you can move it from in here with a screwdriver or something, just push it because it swings like that, so just push it till it lines up over the little spline. And then lastly, the water pump should just all go straight in because that's fixed. Do nix them up fairly tight. This is an anode that sits at the rear of the motor, and it's got that little fin on it to help if the steering is pulling to one side, you just adjust it one way or the other. There's another anode, but that's another anode there, right there, which you'll take off and clean up. Further, that goes in there. You just lock it up that it's firm. There's no forward or backward movement on that. Split pin through, we just bend it up. You know, by regularly undoing your anodes and checking them and then cleaning them, it keeps them working very effectively. I'm going to go clean that up with a wire brush. There's the anode. You can see it's a lot more shinier having been cleaned up. Okay, the next exercise is to drain the oil in the gearbox. Now that is the top plug bung there. Once you open that, air can flow in, and underneath, I'll just turn the camera over. There's another one just there. That's the one you undo first, but not all the way, and then you release this one up here. So again, what I'm going to do, I'm going to tilt the motor, just a grip for the screwdriver to give me a bit more leverage. Okay, so that one unniched. Okay, and there is a little washer which you'll see, which is that, and if you look at the end, that's magnetised to catch any bits of metal, and you can actually see this metal on the end of that. I'm going to give that a wipe over and you'll see it come clean. There we go. So that will need to be cleaned up properly, and the same for the washer. It's probably a good practice to put a new one on. Okay, you can see it's starting to drip now. I'll undo the top vent, and it should start pouring out. There we go. Now the top vent, it's just a standard bung. You might see there's a washer there too. Here's your engine oil. Now there's different ways of putting this into your gearbox. There is a proper little pump action bottle that you can get, and you actually put the attachment in the bottom because you always fill from the bottom, and then once it starts to come out the top, you know you're full. But what I use is a compressor.